A warning, this episode contains offensive language and references to anti-Semitism. From The Times and The Sunday Times, this is The Story. I'm Luke Jones.
I am definitely a fan of his music, specifically his early music up until his 2016 album, The Life of Pablo. But I am absolutely not a fan of him as a person, and my relationship to his music has obviously changed over the last few years and probably over the last decade.
Like many, Blanca Schofield grew up with Kanye West's music, but no more.
I am unplugging from his music, and because I knew I was doing this podcast, I asked my other kind of Kanye fan friends and people who are even more into his music than I am, and the vast majority of them have told me that they can't even engage with his music anymore.
Kanye, or Ye's, influence spreads far beyond music. His billion-dollar brand extends into fashion, footwear, the White House even.
You're in the Oval Office.
Okay.
How does it feel to be in the Oval Office?
Oh, it is good energy in this.
Kanye has been incredibly influential, but also controversial.
I'm really happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish. But Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time.
But in recent years, these outbursts have become more and more extreme and offensive.
Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table, especially Hitler.
In recent weeks, he launched another series of vulgar stunts and antisemitic rants on social media. So has he reached the point of no return? And if this isn't the end, why not? The story today: the fall of Kanye West.
I'm Blanca Schofield. I am the assistant arts editor at The Times and The Sunday Times.
February has been a big month for Kanye, it's fair to say, not in a very good way. Take us back to the 2nd of February. This was the biggest night in music, the Grammys. What happened?
So Kanye West showed up on the red carpet with his wife, the Australian architect Blanca Sensori. She was wearing this big fur coat that kind of covered her whole body, and her hair was straight back. And then they went out onto the red carpet. She turned around, they seemed to exchange some kind of words, and then she dropped her coat and she was wearing this completely see-through mini dress, which essentially meant that she was naked on the red carpet. And obviously the reaction was astonishment from the paparazzi and people watching.
Because to all intents and purposes, she was naked. He was standing there in like a sort of black t-shirt and black trousers.
Fully clothed. And there are some people who say that it was a reference to an album cover that he'd done with her. But still, like, there was this big media frenzy in the question of, was she coerced into doing this? Was it something that she'd agreed to do? And obviously we can't know that. But after the Grammy stunt, he posted on X saying, "She'd been dressing naked for 2 years. Now all of a sudden it's a stunt. I have dominion over my wife. This ain't no woke-ass feminist shit."
I have dominion over my wife.
In response to all of the concern online about their relationship, his spokesperson, Milo Yiannopoulos, who, by the way, is a prominent figure in the kind of alt-right movement, told The Hollywood Reporter, "The battered Bianca narrative is hysterical and absurd. There is a person controlling what Bianca Sensori wears. The name of that person is Bianca Sensori," i.e. explicitly stating that she is the one making the decision to wear/not wear clothes.
And rather than retreating into a bunker or any kind of silence, Kanye came out on X and professed his love for Hitler.
So he has been known over the last few years to have instances of expressing explicit anti-Semitic views. And he did this again. So he went on X, formerly known as Twitter, and started saying things like, I'm a Nazi, I love Hitler, I'm never apologizing for my Jewish comments. Then he went on to tweet to President Donald Trump about P. Diddy, who is currently facing sex trafficking charges, saying, please free my brother Puff. And it actually got to the point that Elon Musk said that given what he has posted, his account is now classified as NSFW, which I think means not suitable for working.
It's more than not suitable for work. Someone spewing anti-Semitic hate. But
yeah, I think that's kind of an understatement, but that was the phrasing that he used. So as a result of all of this, his account was deactivated on X.
And so then that wasn't it even then. A few days after that, if people were watching the Super Bowl in the Los Angeles area, he appears in a commercial.
Yeah, so he paid, I looked this up, apparently it was $8 million to buy a 30-second commercial slot.
Oof.
In order to broadcast this ad, which was very, very stripped back and minimalist.
So what's up, guys? I spent like all the money for the commercial on these new teeth.
In a dentist chair, it seems.
In a dentist chair, it seems. It wasn't very clear. Telling everyone to go onto Yeezy.com, the website where he sells his designs.
Go to Yeezy.com.
And then when people went onto Yeezy.com, the only product that was available to buy was a white T-shirt with a black swastika.
Yes. So we've had, in just over a week, at the Grammys with his wife essentially naked, spewing anti-Semitic hate on X, appearing in a commercial of his own making during the Super Bowl to flog essentially white T-shirts with swastikas on it. I mean, what happened? I mean, surely there must have been some consequences for him.
There was a massive reaction, thankfully, because sometimes you worry that because of the extent of his popularity, he's too valuable for people to react. But in this instance, he was dropped by his management. Shopify, which was the platform that he used in order to sell his designs, deactivated his account. Since the end of last week, he seems to be back on X, posting continuously. Last week, he wrote, first, after further reflection, I've come to the realization that I'm not a Nazi. And then he also posted, I stand on everything I said and nobody finna ever make me apologize again, which means nobody's ever going to make me apologize again. We aren't sure whether he was the one who deactivated his account or whether it was deactivated, but what we do know is that as we speak, he is back on X. He's active and seems to be in the mood to continue posting to his 33 million followers.
And do we know where this came from? Because you say it seems like he was on a particular rampage. This wasn't over a matter of months. This was just over a week that all of this happened. Is it clear that anything sparked it, or was it just out of the blue?
So he has had multiple outbursts like this in the past and has said that he has multiple mental health issues. So I don't think we can trace it to kind of one catalyst, or at least not one that I know of, but it's something that keeps repeatedly happening.
Let's rewind then. Kanye West, where was he born? What was his childhood like?
So he is from Chicago. He was born on June 8th, 1977. And his full name was Kanye Amari West. I think now legally he goes by Ye. But he explained that by saying that it means you in some biblical texts.
As in like, come all ye faithful?
Something like that.
Anyway, his parents were interesting people.
Yeah, so his dad was a Black Panther member. And also I think his mom was arrested when she was a child because she took part in some sit-in as well. So I think they were politically active people. But they got divorced when he was 3. And he was very, very close to his mom, Donda, who was a university professor. And he grew up in a kind of middle-class milieu. He even moved to China for a few semesters with his mom when she was teaching there. And he got a scholarship to study painting at university. He then went to a different university to study English before he dropped out to pursue a full-time music career, which is why his first excellent Grammy-winning album is called The College Dropout.
And that was in 2004. Why excellent and how successful?
It won the Grammy for Best Rap Album and it got nominated for Best Album in general. And it's just constantly placing in the best albums of all time and the best hip-hop albums. I think the thing about him is that he was already a very innovative producer before he became a rapper and had been working on music obsessively since he was 15. And his use of sampling was really interesting, his mixture of humor and political issues.
She's so precious with the peer pressure. Couldn't afford a car, so she named her daughter Alexis. Yeah, it's so long that it looked like.
He didn't really go for the whole kind of like gangster swag thing, at least initially. Like he had this kind of like prep school, polo shirt wearing, college dropout vibe. And it just is, I mean, I was only 6 at the time that it came out, but it just is an exhilarating experience to listen to his music and especially to track the changes and the development in his albums over time.
So that was the first and the big hit. What albums followed?
So then came Late Registration.
Now I ain't saying she a gold digger,
which has the very famous song Gold Digger, which probably most people of mine and your generation listen to at house parties and stuff.
Get down, girl, go ahead, get down. Get down, girl, go ahead, get down.
And then 808s and Heartbreak, which was released after his mum died. And that was a very innovative development in the genre because he used a lot of autotune and electronic sounds.
I'm in love with you, but the vibe is wrong, and it haunted me all the way home.
And was very introspective about like pain and heartbreak.
Till we lose control, she's the man, screaming no, 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 no.
And then he went on to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fancy, which kind of went back to like exhilarating hip hop, but like made it even bigger.
Got a nice ring to it. I guess every superhero need his theme music. No one man should have all that power. The clock's ticking, I just count the hours. Stop tripping, I'm tripping off the power.
Pitchfork, which is a music reviewing website that can often be quite harsh, which is a good thing, gave it 10 out of 10, which kind of shows how influential it was.
Yeah. But controversy was there even in the early days. I mean, even as early as 2005 during a telethon to help people who were affected by Hurricane Katrina.
Yes. So he went on to this telethon and delivered the line,
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
And this is with Mike Myers standing next to him, looking absolutely gobsmacked. A person who's only a year on from his debut massive hit album. It's like quite a moment.
Yeah, and I think it kind of shows that from the very beginning, he was very confident and willing to express his opinions no matter the context. But obviously, this was a huge moment in terms of racial justice in the US.
I hate the way they portray us in the media. If you see a black family, it says they're looting. See a white family, it says they're looking for food. And you know it's been 5 days because most of the people are black.
It was just like a really significant moment in American politics that then George Bush, 5 years later, he went on to call it disgusting and the worst moment of my presidency.
It's one thing to say, I don't appreciate the way he's handled his business. It's another thing to say this man's a racist. I resent it. It's not true. And it was one of the most disgusting moments of my presidency.
It's indicative of how the way he expresses his politics has shifted over time because in 2005 he came out and expressed this frustration about how black people were being treated in the US, but he went on to apologize for what he'd said.
We should say throughout all of this time, or actually going a bit further on, it's not just music that he's excelling at. He becomes a real businessman, specifically through sneakers. Explain that.
His interest in fashion stretches back at least 16, 17 years. He's always expressed a desire to be part of the fashion scene in general. And so initially he collaborated with Nike for Air Yeezy sneakers. And then in 2015, he started collaborating with Adidas, whatever's your version. And the trainers and the clothes that he started designing for Adidas and Yeezy completely took off. There was a point where people would literally trade their cars in order to acquire some Yeezy trainers. At school, so many boys would say that they wanted to get some Yeezy trainers, but that they cost like multiple thousands of dollars.
And the result is Kanye's a billionaire.
Yeah, he became a billionaire. In 2020, Forbes put him on the billionaire list.
It was also during this time that he linked up with another enormous celebrity brand, Kim Kardashian. How big was that for him, do you think?
Obviously, it's the marriage both literally but also metaphorically of like two huge worlds, the LA reality TV, popular culture world with that of hip hop. There were some people who would have been fans of both camps, but I think that there wouldn't necessarily be that much crossover. And then the union of these two just created this like massive powerhouse couple situation. So you get to a point where he had become one of the most powerful people in the world. He was worth over $1 billion. He'd been releasing music that was consistently fantastically well reviewed, and now he'd coupled up with one of the most influential women in the world. But it wasn't necessarily going to last.
Blanca, we're talking Kanye West. When we left him, he was right on top of the world, earning lots of money, releasing amazing music, coupled up with a very influential wife. But we started to see, as we got in the run-up to the US presidential election in 2016, him making some quite surprising political moves.
Yeah, so up until 2015 at least, he had always expressed support for Democratic candidates. So like he'd expressed support for Obama, he donated to his election campaigns, he'd expressed support for Hillary Clinton. And then all of a sudden in 2016, he told concert goers at one of his Life Apollo concerts that he hadn't voted, but if he had, he would have voted for Trump.
I said something that was kind of politically correct. I told y'all I didn't vote, right? But I didn't tell you. I guess I told you. But if I would have voted, I would have voted on Trump.
They started meeting. It sort of seemed like they kind of had almost like a bit of a partnership going on.
Trump is on his hero's journey right now, and he might not have expected to have a crazy motherfucker like Kanye West run up and support.
I'll tell you what, that was pretty impressive. He can speak for me anytime he wants. He's been a great guy. He's a smart cookie.
But it was also in 2016 that he had quite a health crisis as well, didn't he? He ended up in hospital.
So that was a really big turning point year, I think, because you had all the Donald Trump stuff, and then in 2016, he ended up having to be hospitalized and cancel some of his tour dates.
We start this half hour with word that Kanye West is waking up in a Los Angeles hospital where he's now under observation, reportedly for exhaustion and stress. This on the heels of a bizarre and abrupt end to a concert over the weekend.
There was obviously a lot of frenzy around it.
Kanye West appearing agitated, pacing back and forth on a floating stage over a concert crowd in Sacramento, ranting about politics.
Oh yeah, I'm on my Trump tonight.
Railing against the radio.
I'm gonna take his lead. Radio, you.
Even seeming to take issue with his longtime friends Jay-Z and Beyonce.
Jay-Z, I know you got killers. Please don't send them at my head. Just call me.
in 2020, Kim posted on Instagram about his mental health. And she said, I understand Kanye is subject to criticism because he is a public figure and his actions at times can cause strong opinions and emotions. He is a brilliant and complicated person who, on top of the pressures of being an artist and a black man who experienced the painful loss of his mother and has to deal with the pressure and isolation that is heightened by his bipolar disorder. So she basically came out and explicitly said, this is the diagnosis that he has. And since then, Kanye has also said that he's been diagnosed with autism.
My wife took me to do that because she said, something about your personality doesn't feel like it's bipolar. I've seen bipolar before. Yeah. She's educated, so I've seen bipolar before. And come to find out, it's really a case of autism.
His relationship with Kim Kardashian started to go sour sort of after this time and during this time. And it was in 2021 that actually they announced they were calling it quits. They were going to divorce.
Kim Kardashian filing for divorce from her husband Kanye West, their high-profile marriage coming to an end after 6.5 years of living in a reality show spotlight.
Post-divorce, he gets more and more political, and actually with sort of people further down the spectrum, rightwards. How so?
So in 2022, he appeared alongside this right-wing commentator called Candace Owens at Paris Fashion Week in a White Lives Matter t-shirt, which is a slogan that has racist connotations because it's basically saying that activists shouldn't be using the term Black Lives Matter. He would go on Fox News and go into these rants.
With liberals, their main tool is, that they use are artists and influencers, right? But then God has the number one artist and the number one influencer as a conservative. So I always chuckle at that. Every time I come up with some brilliant, I was like, could you imagine if, they could have just indoctrinated Ye?
But in October 2022, he once again went on a rampage, which I think is the right word to be using, with lots of violent language against Jewish people, saying things like, going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people, you guys have toyed with me and tried to blackball whoever opposes your agenda.
His tweet continued saying, quote, the funny thing is I actually can't be anti-Semitic because black people are actually Jew.
And to the point that his Instagram and Twitter accounts were restricted.
And the penny seemed to drop with some of those who were doing business with him and supporting him at that time. I mean, what kind of impact did that particular online rampage have for him?
Yeah, so he was finally dropped by Balenciaga, a kind of high fashion brand.
This week, the French fashion brand became Ye's first major partner to announce a split after the rapper's increasingly controversial public statements, from the White Lives Matter t-shirts at Paris Fashion Week to a tirade of anti-Semitic threats online.
He was dropped by his talent agency, CAA, and he was dropped by Adidas.
And that was big business for them and for him as well.
Yeah, he went from being worth over $1 billion to being worth $400 million, which is obviously still a lot of money, but that is indicative of how important that deal was.
And did he row back on any of this? Did he apologise at any point or not?
So in December 2022, he was talking to Alex Jones, this conspiracy theorist, alongside the Holocaust denier Nick Fuentes.
I see good things about Hitler also. The Jew, I love everyone. I'm done with the classifications. Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table, especially Hitler.
And actually on that show also said that Kanye West also said that he thought that the Holocaust hadn't happened.
So no, he didn't apologise.
Well, then in 2023, in December, a year later, he wrote in Hebrew on Instagram and said, "It was not my intention to offend or demean, and I deeply regret any pain I may have caused. I am committed to starting with myself and learning from this experience to ensure greater sensitivity and understanding in the future. Your forgiveness is important to me, and I am committed to making amends and promoting unity." So when he makes statements like that, there are people who are maybe, who could maybe think, oh, he's making amends, maybe it is fine to listen to his music again. But I just think words have an impact. Jews in America have been targeted physically.
Cops say this man spewed anti-Semitic rhetoric and made a reference to Kanye West before attacking the victim, punching his teeth right out of his mouth, and then he walked away.
And there have been points as well where there have been signs that have been put up.
And in Jacksonville, the city's mayor is also condemning a number of anti-Semitic messages recently seen across the city. The message could be seen during the Georgia-Florida game day celebrations, and it was projected at the stadium reading, quote, "Kanye is right about the Jews."
This isn't just like the ramblings of like a madman. Like, he is a very influential person.
And for all the people who say, well, you know, he's had a marriage breakdown, he's lost a mother he loved a lot, and he struggles with lots of mental health issues. There are thousands of people also in that situation who don't go on anti-Semitic rants online, who don't incite hatred against Jewish people.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can try and find an excuse for it, but ultimately, these are kind of unforgivable actions.
And so then that brings us full circle to then the anti-Semitic rant he had online only in February this year. Thinking about this whole back catalogue of controversy and upset caused, where do you think we are with him now? There still seems to be a tension between the debate on free speech and whether you can actually really cancel somebody, and someone like him, as you say, who is still incredibly influential and popular for his music.
I mean, I'm going to make a political point here.
Stand back.
And say that, like, we're living in a world where an American president has been elected who openly lies. We do live in a world where powerful people are forgiven for lying and for spouting hateful speech. And I think that it's unrealistic to think that Kanye West is going to suddenly disappear from the sound waves and that his fans are all suddenly going to stop listening to his music. That's just not going to happen. Because we live in a world where those opinions are still popular among many different people. And so maybe, yes, the mainstream is listening to him slightly less and is taking him less seriously, but the Kanye West name still sells.
We contacted Kanye West spokesperson about the issues raised in this podcast, but we have not yet had a response. That was Blanca Schofield, assistant arts editor at The Times and The Sunday Times. You can find all of Blanca's work at thetimes.com if you have got a subscription. The producers today were Sam Chantarasak and Hannah Gravett. The executive producer was Taryn Siegel, and sound design and theme composition was by Maula Seto. The story at thetimes.co.uk is how to contact us with your own views, Kanye related or otherwise. I'm Luke Jones, and I'll see you soon.